Some things are very Italian. San Gimignano, Puccini, Leonardo da Vinci, Tortellini, and some things are very, very Italian. Alfa Romeo is one of them. To celebrate the company's 80th birthday this year, owners from all over the world took part in a 5,000-mile jaunt through the 12 EC countries. This 1923 example made it as far as Britain only after 2 pistons from an old boat engine were bolted in place on the continent. I think we're talking about some pretty serious enthusiasts here.
Well, I've always liked Alfa Romeos. I lived in Italy for a while, and I used to go to Monza and see them racing. This was many, many years ago. One day I brought this home to my wife and showed it to her, and she said, yes, it's a very nice little car. I like it very much. And I said, well, I've been waiting for 30 years for one of these. She said, yes, it's nice, but you're 30 years too old for it. But that was 25 years ago, so we're still driving it.
Well, very often one can find a box, perhaps, but to have a full set of the original Alfa tools themselves, because each one, you see, is printed with the name and totally original, authentic to the toolkit itself. It hasn't been made up. And of course, over the years, people rob these for use at home or whatever, or when they sell the car in the olden days, a few years back, they didn't realize the value of these details. And then there's very, very few that have come through intact.
Way back in the 50s, I had a 1750 supercharged Alfa, like this one next to us. And force of circumstances, had to sell it. Needed the money for something else. I'd always promised myself that I would get another one when I could.
Calling themselves ambassadors of Alfa Romeo motoring culture, these guys simply ate and drank their way through every cultural centre on an entire continent. After an overnight halt in Bath, the gourmet cavalcade set off for badminton. There they would have more lunch, and there too there would be an opportunity to meet members of the British Alfa Romeo Owners Club, an organisation that incidentally houses some of the best old Alfas in the world, and some pretty die-hard Alfisti too. At the last count I was told 16 times that Enzo Ferrari began his career at Alfa and would never have got his pokey company off the ground were it not for Alfa Romeo. Right, we've seen some of the earliest cars Alfa Romeo ever made. This is one of the latest. It's called the SZ Coupe. In Italy they call it Il Mostro, the monster, and people have been pretty rude about its styling here too. Some say Ray Charles did it. But it does have presence, and guts too. It goes like a racer, feels like a racer, and it looks like a dog's dinner. Our Frascati friends weren't all that interested in the SZ though. The talk was not of Alfa today, but of 1951, when the Alfetta 159s trounced the miserable Ferraris. Now, a lot of people are wondering, why on earth celebrate Alfa Romeo's birthday in such grand style? Why not Datsuns or Austins? Well, with the exception of the truly horrible Arna, that was the result of a deal they did with Nissan a few years ago, all Alfa Romeos are very tactile cars. You don't just own an Alfa Romeo, you have a love affair with one. I should know, I've got one. Mine's a modern-day GTV6, but most of all, I want one of these.
That's DZ1, and it's for racing. 24 hours racing and road racing and on circuits. And the body is from aluminium.
Do you race yours?
Yes, always. It's first time the car is on the road. And we enjoy that very much, especially here in England.
And with that, the Dutchman set off for Paris. I hope it was raining.